Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay. Talk in your mic for me real quick. I think you just need to bring it up a little bit.
Talking to my mic?
Yeah.
There you go.
You need to be closer.
There you go. How's that?
A little bit better.
A little bit better.
Yeah. So if Ben's quiet, he has been informed that he needs to move closer to his mic.
Are we recording that?
Yeah.
We probably shouldn't.
Oh, okay. Would you like to edit the podcast?
I'll take care of it.
Okay. AKA, this episode will never air.
It's a tragedy, but it happens, you know?
Yeah.
Things happen.
Well, welcome back. Here we are, guys, recapping season 5, episode 10 of our beloved show, Unsolved Mysteries. And we only have 2 things to talk to you guys about today. 2 cases we're going to unpack.
2 long cases.
2 long cases. Yes.
I have the sad story.
I know.
And I don't like it.
You don't like sad stories, for the record?
I've made that very clear.
But you also don't like UFO stories. You also don't like psychic stories. You also don't like ghost stories. So what stories would you like to cover?
None. 0.
Oh, all right. Well, we're here, and I don't really have any housekeeping stuff other than please leave us a 5-star rating and review. It helps more than you guys know. It is how we can crack the algorithm and go up against all of the big bad boys in the world of true crime podcast. Please make sure to follow us on social media, Unsolved Couple Pod on Instagram and TikTok. I do know what I'm talking
We're
about.
on TikTok?
We are on TikTok. Yep.
I didn't know that.
I've said it every week when I do our plug. Just also goes to show you guys, this is what almost 20 years of marriage looks like. I'm talking and Ben filters out 90% of what I say.
Don't filter out. I just know that what you're saying is right. And so I just let you do it.
The biggest load of crock I have ever heard. And then we do have a little small, kind of hasn't really grown much on Facebook, an Unsolved Couple Pod discussion group. I would love to see that take off a little bit more because I do get DMs from our listeners quite often wanting to discuss cases. And that is great. And I love that. Please keep sending those my way. But also, I would love to see you guys talking about your favorite parts of Unsolved Mysteries and talking about the cases that we cover. Okay. So, like I said before, we have 2 stories that we are going to be sharing with you. Ben is going to kick us off with the kind of heavier, sad one. Spoiler alert, I guess. And I will then take over for the second half of the podcast and we'll kind of lighten it up a little bit, have a little bit of fun.
You didn't have anything you wanted to share from this last week with everybody?
Well, I shared it on our social media, Unsolved Couple Pod, Instagram and TikTok, that we had to take our cat to the vet because, first off, if you're going to be grossed out by any bodily functions, please fast forward like 30 seconds or a minute. But our cat is hairless, so you can see everything on him, right? And he had a impacted anal gland, which sounds just as bad as it really is. And not to get too gross into the details, but the only way to get that taken care of before it legitimately ruptures, ripping open the skin and exploding like a volcano, is to take him to the vet and have it cleaned out, debried, and then filled up with antibiotics. So
he's doing good.
He's doing good now. Yeah.
He was upset about it yesterday.
He was upset about it. Yesterday, his space was invaded yesterday.
Yeah. He didn't want anything to do with anybody.
Mm-hmm. Nope. But yeah, I just feel like in the last couple of weeks, almost every time we sit down to talk to you guys, there's another stupid story. Oh, my car battery died too when I was in town and it was 106 degrees outside and we missed our warranty
by a month.
1 month.
I was very upset about
that. Yeah. So in actually speaking of that, if you would love to support the Unsolved Couple podcast, please feel free in the 2 links below.
Send us a car battery.
Send us a car battery.
No,
Send us a new hairless cat.
Took care of
we did get the car battery. You can support us in a ton of ways that are free, but if you would like to throw a little cha-ching our way, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee and then support me. In the show notes below are links to both of those. And it helps this little independent podcast keep on trucking. Okay, Ben, anything you wanted to say before we kicked it off?
No, I hate this story.
Before we dived in, Ben's trying to drag his feet so he doesn't
I just don't like this story.
Okay.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. It involves the death of a child. So if that, fair warning, if that's not for you, feel free just to skip to the fun part with me. But I get it. There's a lot of true crime podcasts that do not cover cases about children. And I completely understand.
All right. September 10th, 1988. It's a Saturday morning in Midlothian, Illinois. It's close to Chicago, around there. All right. David Dowaliby, he's up early. Their son is up. They're watching Saturday morning cartoons, which I loved Saturday morning.
I do miss
cartoons.
Saturday morning cartoons. I don't think that's
Looney
a thing
Tunes.
anymore.
I know you didn't like
I didn't like Looney Tunes. I thought they were annoying.
Tunes. The best.
They stressed me out as a kid.
Coyote and Roadrunner.
No one followed any of the rules. It was just chaos. I didn't like it. There was not really a storyline half the time. It was just violence and chaos.
That's not violence. I don't know. I don't want to hear that. All right. So they tell us they live in this house. There's a basement apartment that David's mother lived in. So she lives downstairs. He gets up around 7:15 in the morning. He notices that the front door is open, partially open. He just thought that his mom had come home at some point and had left it open. His wife, Cynthia, she gets up a couple hours later and they go in to wake their 7-year-old daughter, Jaclyn, and she's not there. So they're starting to think that is she with grandma? But grandma, they didn't think she was with her. They thought maybe at first, but then no, she never came home last night. Grandma partied. And I found out she did party.
She had herself a man.
So she was
boyfriend.
out.
Grandma was at the tunes with her boyfriend. Sorry, I got to try to bring some little bit of lightness to this story where we can. But as a parent, you expecting to see your child in a place and they're not there is something that happens from time to time, but you never go to a 10 right away. But I imagine as you're checking off spot 1, spot 2, spot 3, and you're not finding your child, that level of panic is starting to grow.
Well, I'm sure. So we do get told David's not her biological father. He adopted her when they got married. I come to find out he adopted her when she was 2 years old. So to her, Jaclyn, that is her dad. And he has seen her as his daughter. So they're all, mom and dad are worried. He starts going out around the neighborhood. They thought maybe she got up and she's playing with friends in the neighborhood. They start looking at different friends' houses. They start calling people, but they can't find anything. David even gets out and he starts driving around looking for her. They can't find her. As they come back to the house, they notice a basement window broken. They also notice when they go back into her room, her comforter is gone. At this point, the mom is nope, we're calling the police. They call the police and they start investigating a kidnapping. The FBI are brought in. They set up wiretaps. They do all these things. They're waiting for a ransom note. And several days go by. No ransom note, no calls, no nothing, no leads. They don't get anything. 4 days later, her body is discovered in a field in Blue Island, Illinois. Her comforter is there along with like 26 feet of rope, which was still wrapped around her throat. You look like you have thoughts.
Kidnappings are so rare in the first place, let alone an abduction out of somebody's home. I think all of us remember JonBenet Ramsey, right? And then to find, do you know how far that little town was from her home? Did they say? Did you look it up? How far away it was?
Look it up. Okay. I don't think it was super far, but it was the next town over.
Okay.
It was a different town.
I just, as a mother, I just can't think that was my child's last moments on earth and what they would have been experiencing. I hate this story. I hate that we have to share these stories because of monsters like this man.
So now, obviously, the investigation is turning. It's not just it's
Did
kidnapping.
Did they do anything that first several days other than put out wiretaps? Were there search parties going on?
Yes,
there was other things happening.
You had the FBI. They were brought in. They did
a bunch of forensic
stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was volunteers.
Okay.
I did even find out like the Coast Guard was flying with trying to do aerial searches. It wasn't. It was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yes. Okay. It's not like they just sat at the house and did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So they did put in a lot of effort to try to find her. Obviously, she's found dead. So now the investigation is turning. Clearly, the prime suspects are the parents at first. And mind you, like Unsolved Mysteries is telling this. The parents are being interviewed. They're the ones telling a lot of this story. So they're getting upset because they're now being questioned harder. They want more specifics. Well, what time did you wake up? Was it this time or this time? I'm sure they're trying to like find inconsistencies in their stories. They're getting upset because they want the police to move on and start investigating.
Yeah.
From what I also read, they don't say this. They pretty much gave the police
full access to
everything, full access to anything in the house they wanted to take.
So you have a set of parents that are like, do what you need to do to eliminate us so that you can start a more thorough search in other places. Because I understand if your child goes missing and then is found dead out of your own home, parents are going to be the number one suspects or whoever was at the home at the time, right? Statistically, that is what we know about kidnapping is that literally like 98% of the time, and that's just a statistic off the top of my head, I don't think it's pretty close to that, is by a like very close relative or family member, someone that lives in the home has direct contact.
Yeah. So they still continue to investigate the possibility of a kidnapping. But they do tell us on September 11th, so the day after she is kidnapped, but not a couple days before she's found, David takes a polygraph test at the FBI headquarters in Chicago. He asks when he's done, did I pass? They supposedly tell him he passed with flying colors. On the day Jaclyn's body was found, he'd been asked to come in and take a second polygraph, but with the police. And he asked why he has to take a second one. They're like, well, the state likes to use their own, not from the federal government. He's like, okay. So he goes in, he takes a polygraph, and his results were inconclusive. He tells us the reason they were inconclusive is because they cited him as an uncooperative subject. And he goes, yes, I was being uncooperative because the polygraph examiner told me, answer yes to every question. And then he asked several questions. So he wants him to say yes, even if it's a lie. He says, listen, I just need you to say yes to everything the next row of questions I ask you. I'm sure it was, his age, which might have been a lie. It's like, are you 35? If he was actually 32, he's supposed to say yes.
They do this to get a baseline, right? Did you do anything like this?
Yeah, they made me lie also.
And if
in my
anyone's new here,
polygraph.
Ben did a polygraph test for work, not because he was under investigation for anything. But this is standard.
But to get my job, I had to do a polygraph. And they do. They make you lie. And
you were not interrogated. I guess you were questioned by a federal agent. So someone along the same lines would have been trained by.
I was questioned by a former CIA guy.
And that's why your exam went the way it did.
So, but like the lies they asked me to say is when I was asked my name to say no or yes, and whatever it was simple things, but he wanted me to lie. And they asked David to say yes to all these things. One of the questions they then ask him is, did you kill your daughter? And he refuses to say yes, which I totally understand. I would too. If they're like, hey, lie. Say yes to every question.
Yeah, then that question should have been off the table. That was out of bounds for that
because
investigator.
Here's the thing. He would say yes, and then the police are like, see, you said yes.
You said yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, I refuse to say yes to that question. And he even said, he goes, I will lie about my name, my age, anything you want me to lie about so you can figure out. He goes, I just will not lie about that question.
Well, there's about 1,000 other questions you could have gotten a baseline from, and that didn't need to be one of them.
So after the test, he's then interrogated for 5 hours. So then as he's being interrogated, a police officer comes in, he whispers to the detectives, and the detectives then turn to David and say, hey, your daughter's been found. She's been killed. And he just looks at him and is like, you guys are liars. He went through this polygraph. He's been interrogated for 5 hours. He's thinking this is just a ruse. They're trying to say this to get me to try to confess to something, whatever. And by this time, he's then done. He goes, I'm out. And he goes home. Come to find out, they were telling the truth. And his wife is very upset. His mother is there. And they realize their daughter has been killed. So an autopsy was done, but her body was so already kind of decomposed, and it was just, they could not determine the actual exact time of death. So pretty much after that.
What month did this happen in?
September, early September. It's Chicago. It's hot and muggy.
Oh, okay.
You're right off the lakes. It's really
muggy. Okay, because I'm like, that's not that long of a time frame.
It doesn't, but from what I read, like a jury thing of her body was like covered in maggots and stuff.
It was bad, real bad. Okay.
I guess he determined that she had been dead for about 5.5 days. Well, she'd been missing for 4. So pretty much what it determined is she was killed very quickly after she was taken.
She hadn't just been placed there recently. Yeah.
She was taken and killed pretty much right away.
Right away. Okay.
So for over the next 2 months, they built a case up against the Dowalibys. In November, they charged them with murder. Both of them, the mother and father, Cynthia and David. So in April of 1990, so about almost 2 years, a year and a half later, they end up going to trial. Pretty much the entire case was circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, what evidence do they have?
So I thought there would be more.
You would think.
Here's the thing, because really,
first off, why did they even arrest the mom? That's what what was the evidence for that?
Well, we find out they didn't. There was none.
Yeah.
I really thought that Unsolved Mysteries was telling it, and they were telling it from the Dowaliby side, that there was, I was like, man, there's definitely got to be more to this case.
Yeah.
There's not. No. I read multiple things.
Because there's not even circumstantial evidence. No. You were literally just arresting these people because they were maybe the most likely to do it.
So their main witness was a man who said he saw David on the night of the murder. And he said he saw a man in a car with a very prominent nose. Well, come to find out, it was in a parking lot 75 yards away.
75
in the middle of the night.
Yards.
It was literally.
How in the world did that guy even get the gall to say that he saw a man with a pronounced nose? There's no way he could have seen facial details like that.
I read later that a district attorney that wasn't on the case and someone else went out and tried to conduct if that was possible. And they did a test and said it's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
That test, then they wrote a thing up and it was hidden and it came out later.
It was hidden?
Well, it wasn't like they weren't part of the case. So it's not like it was given to a bunch of people.
But did they give it to the prosecutors?
I don't know. I'm just telling you that was from the reporting from that was from the reporting from the reporters.
How did this even get to trial? Because this would have had to gone through an affidavit and a grand jury. There's no evidence here.
So, and then so he picked David's photo out from a 5 photo lineup. Well, come to find out, they took David's.
I'd love to know how that was presented to this guy.
Well, it was presented because David's photo was 30% larger than all the other photos. So technically, all the photos, he does have the bigger nose because his picture is bigger. So he picks David's. That is literally their whole case, is this one guy's testimony that he saw David in a car in the area the night of the murder. He didn't even see him. It's not even saying he saw the guy dump the body. Then 2 other witnesses said that they saw Cynthia's car in the area right after the murder, but they said they saw it at this time on this day. Well, come to find out later on, we find out that the police had pictures of her car sitting in front of the house at the same exact time that the witnesses said she was at the murder site. So those 2 witnesses were discredited before this could even really get to trial. And originally the police reported and said that the window was broken from the inside. And they thought they had broken the window to cover up what they had done to make it look like an intruder. After they charged the parents, the forensic report came back and said, no, actually that window was broken from the outside. But it's too late now. They'd already charged them and they're going for it. So they then tell us that the police were also convinced that no one could climb through that window because there was a bunch of stuff underneath the window. There was a nightstand, a towel rack, a TV tray. And they thought, no, there's no way someone could climb through. The Dowalibys had a neighbor. I don't know why they did this, but they had a neighbor climb through this window and they videotaped it.
I will say I saw to just show. Here's the thing. I think as someone watching Unsolved Mysteries, I appreciated, it can be done, but it also didn't take a rocket scientist to see a picture of that and be like, this wouldn't have been hard to crawl through.
Yeah. So they were trying to say, it can be done. And clearly it could be done. So they go through the whole trial. Before closing arguments, the judge addresses the attorneys with not the jury present and says, you know what? You guys have literally presented 0 evidence that Cynthia is responsible. So he throws out her charges and due to insufficient evidence. But he says David's case can go to the jury. And he pretty much, the only reason David's case went to the jury because of that one eyewitness who claimed to have seen David on the night of the murder. So they think, all right, there's nothing here. We won't. Nope. Turns out jury comes back and finds him guilty and sentences him to 45 years. But shortly after the conviction, this whole case blows up even more. It was a big deal before, but there was a guy named David Protest. He was a reporter. He starts digging into the actual case and he's like, and starts criticizing the investigation. He teams up with a local news station and a man by the name of David Hogan. And he does a bunch of new investigative reporting on the news and pretty much shows the public what had happened. And there's a lot of public outcry that, hey, this kind of looks messed up. So David's case goes before the Illinois Court of Appeals. And in October of 1991, they unanimously overturn his conviction. And not just overturn it, but they say, yeah, we're overturning this conviction and you can't retry him. You're done. That's it. Supposedly, too, I read later that they kind of got after the judge. I was like, you should have thrown this out.
Yeah, you should have.
They really pointed the finger at the judge for not throwing this case out in the first place. So,
because this is what I will say, and hopefully this sounds not the problem with crimes against children is that as a society, we want to hold somebody accountable.
Of course.
We are angry and this is heinous and it stirs deep emotions within
this girl's
people.
7 years old.
Exactly. And I'm sure those jury members sat through pictures of autopsies, pictures of crime scene. We're going to find out later that she was sexually assaulted. Like,
we don't know that.
Okay. Well, there was speculation. Like, anyways. And you want to believe that this man wouldn't have ended up on trial if there wasn't a reason for him to be there. And that is one of the things that is so hard about juries is that they can't be emotional. And that is far easier said than done. We're seeing that right now. I'd be very interested how the Lindsay Clancy trial ends up playing out, because we have a mother on trial for taking the life of her 3 children. She's admitted to that. There's no question that she did it, but there's a bunch of questions surrounding her state of mind. Now, we're not going to get into how we feel about that or anything, but I think you have somebody like this case on trial for the death of a child. There was no evidence that they should have been there in the first place, and they were still found guilty. And the judge, as the person who has the longest standing record of being able to remove emotions from things, should have stepped in and not put it on the jury. Because I think that was just too much for the jury to say not guilty. Because even if there was the smallest chance that he was, it's better to lock up a child killer than to not. Does that make sense? And I don't know, that's how I felt about how he ended up being found guilty. The judge should have stepped in. And I'm glad that the Supreme Court heard this case, because they don't take every case. Or the appeals court.
Yeah, it did. The state did take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the Court of Appeals thing.
Yeah, and even for the state to fight it when it went to the state Supreme level is insane.
So
there's no evidence.
Yeah, so David is released. He served 18 months in prison. They interview one guy from the police. He still thinks that David's guilty. He pretty much says that no one has shown me evidence why he's not. I'm like, well, it's kind of your job to find evidence of things, not anyone else to bring it all to you. But the Dowalibys just want the murder solved, and they want to find out who killed their daughter. So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
Okay, I don't have a lot of faith in this update, but what do you have for us?
This is still technically unsolved.
I hate that.
There's a lot, and then there's also not a lot. So
Okay.
Unsolved Mysteries kind of gives an update. If you noticed, they tell us update. Someone had called, 2 people had called, and there was 2 prior suspects. One of them was the girls, Jaclyn's biological father. He was kind of a bad guy and a violent man.
Okay.
Police first started looking into him. I guess he'd tried to break into the house before. He'd lost complete custody of his daughter. Technically, she was adopted by someone else. But he was ruled out because he was in prison in Florida during the time.
Okay, so solid alibi.
Very solid.
Yeah.
He'd been in prison since May, and he was still in prison when this all happened. The other suspect was a man by the name of Timothy Guess, who is the biological father's brother. So the girl's uncle.
Biological uncle, okay.
Biological uncle. He had an alibi. The people that called into Unsolved Mysteries said, hey, you know what? We actually lied for him.
What?
And he is a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic.
Oh.
He said he was at some restaurant club all night, and two waitresses corroborated his
alibi. Okay.
And they said, we did that because we didn't think he was guilty and we thought the parents were guilty and we just didn't want to get involved. So we said, yeah, he was here.
You didn't want to get involved, so you lied?
I don't know. That's just
involved.
I know.
Also, if someone asks you to help, corroborate, what is the word I'm looking for now?
I know, I can't say it either.
Corroborate. Now that's bothering me because I know that word. Corroborate their alibi. That is a red flag.
So also, where the girls, so he was the uncle. He did an interview with Protests and Hogan, the guy, the investigative journalist, and he pretty much talked about the layout of the house, even though he'd never been there, and said some other crazy things.
Do we have eyes on this guy today?
He's dead. He died in 2002.
How?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, he also... No, I lost my train of thought on that.
He gave an interview with the layout of the house.
And they asked him, well, were you at this place? And he says, yes, I was there. And they go, whoa, these people are now saying you're not there. They weren't. And he goes, well, that's because I was invisible. Like the spirits, he's mentally ill.
Oh,
says the spirits make him invisible. He has powers. He has the ability to do that.
Got it.
He clearly is
schizophrenia, man.
Yeah, he says he hears voices. All that. He had admitted and acknowledged all of that.
Okay.
And sometimes he doesn't remember things that he does, or he blacks out. Very scary.
Okay. Was there
also?
Okay.
The where the girl's body was found was by an apartment complex, in a field by an apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
One of the waitresses, or one of the people that worked at this place that he went or worked, he gives her a ride home, and she lives in that apartment place. So this
is more circumstantial.
He has ties to that apartment complex, or at least
he has enough where
his ties to both places.
That this road should have been at least looked at a little bit further.
Yeah.
It really seems like they got tunnel vision on the parents pretty quickly and kind of couldn't see outside of that.
So police, they reopened the investigation. The Cook County District Attorney's Office reopened it in 1993, but nothing came of it. And this case really hasn't been investigated since. I did find out, I read this from court filings. There was pubic hair found in the girl's. So where this girl was found, her underwear was there too, not on her. And there was a hair in her underwear. There was also 3 hairs on the rope that was tied around her neck. There was also type O blood underneath her fingernails. Yeah.
So she fought her attacker.
David's blood type was A. So it's not him.
Yeah.
And that hair has never been tested that I can find.
I wonder if they saw those fingernail clippings too. They would have kept them.
No one knows.
Dude, Chicago, what are you guys doing? This is in Cook County?
Yeah.
Cook County. Why hasn't this been tested?
I don't know.
It's really not that hard. It really isn't.
Maybe it's because they do believe it was the uncle.
It wasn't the uncle. I mean, it wasn't the dad, and maybe it was the uncle. You're right. It could have been, and he's now since passed away. But you still could get some answers. And unfortunately, it seems like, and I can't fault these parents because I don't know what it's like to be in this situation. You were telling me have kind of...
Yeah, that's my next note. So the parents, shortly after this, Unsolved Mysteries and that, they changed their names, they moved away, and they refuse to talk about this case. They won't talk to anyone. They will do 0 interviews, and they don't want to be acknowledged or known. They just want to move on.
Yeah, it's hard because I think it's really easy to judge parents. I'm
not throwing any judgments.
I'm just saying it would be really easy to be I would this and I would that. However,
I don't know what it's like.
These parents were accused of taking the life of their child to the point where the father, they went through a court case. The mother did too, sat through trial. And they likely were probably in jail while they waited their trial.
No, they were
bonded out
in December.
Okay. And then he sat in prison while this went through the appeals process.
He was in prison for 18 months.
For a crime he didn't commit. And being a child killer in prison is not an easy badge to wear.
Yeah. I mean, the police, when I read, it was the appeals docket.
Opinion piece, yeah.
The police are honed in on the parents because they're saying, listen, they really are the only ones that had motive, means, and opportunity. Okay, but presented...
No, they actually didn't because you didn't look anywhere else.
But you didn't present any evidence to that.
Yeah.
If you want to start there, great, but you got to build a case.
Well, you did by testing the girl's blood under her fingernails.
So the mom's blood was okay, but again... So is the girl's. It could be her own blood.
Yeah, it could have been.
But DNA is around. Mm-hmm. So this case could possibly be solved.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like the parents are not fighting for the case to be solved.
Okay.
And it just looks like they want to be left alone.
Okay.
I don't even know if anyone knows where they are or what their names are now.
No, they changed their names, right?
Yeah, I read a piece from 2016, a newspaper article, and sounds like they maybe found them, but the people they said we're not talking to you. We want anything to do with this. So I don't know. And the police clearly are not doing anything to solve or close this case. Yeah. It just does kind of seem like, I don't know, I just think there could have been a lot more done in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and I talked
really
about
kind of
how
dangerous
build a
case.
Tunnel vision can be. There was plenty of opportunities for them to say, hey, this doesn't seem like enough evidence. Maybe we should look and see if we can get clues to go anywhere else.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to build a case.
You got to build a case. Yeah.
If you think it's the parents,
you got to prove it.
You got to build that case. I'm not saying it doesn't look like it's the parents.
No, it does not appear.
But it is a strange case because the parents said they didn't hear anything. And someone walked in that house, took that girl, and left.
Yeah, but you know what? Did you watch the Elizabeth Smart documentary?
No.
So Elizabeth Smart was taken out of her own home in her bedroom in the middle of the night with her sister in the same bedroom as she was.
I know it's possible.
Yeah. And her sister did wake up and heard a voice, but didn't see the man that took it. And she actually was the one who ended up cracking the case because it was like 9 months later. She remembered all of the sudden where she'd heard that voice before. But the parents were just down the hallway. And I think as parents, we like to believe, how did they not hear anything?
No, I totally understand.
Yeah.
It's very possible to be sleeping and not hear things.
Yeah.
So all possible.
Last night, our son walked into our bedroom at 2 a.m. and said my name and scared the bejesus out of me.
I did hear him.
Yeah. Did you hear him walk in?
I caught him right at the end of the bed.
At the end of the bed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a terrible story.
Yeah.
Something awful happened.
This is where my faith comes in, that whatever higher power there is, that he protects children, and that girl in those last moments felt nothing, didn't experience anything. Like that is the only solace I can find in this.
Yeah,
and even if the man who did this is dead, what if he's not and there's still a child killer out there on the loose? Or it's connected to other cases, or this man then continued to have, and that's the thing, Chicago, you failed potentially other children as well. Because I cannot imagine this man just did this once. That he didn't abuse or take advantage of other children in another way. So you left a predator out there because your pride and your ego got in the way of the fact that you were convinced that you didn't get it wrong, just the court system did. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So
hopefully, I just to say, because I think from the sounds of it, from what I read, there's evidence that could possibly end this case.
Yeah, so I guess why wouldn't Cook County want this? Has got to be one of the bigger cases because it was so known at the time.
Opinion, I just think it clearly hasn't been in the headlines since 1993. The parents wanted to put this in their rearview mirror. It's Cook County. There's a lot going on, and it's just, I don't think it's someone sitting there. I don't think someone's sitting there in 2026. Maybe in 1993, the police are like, no, we got the right person. And it just is too bad. I don't think anyone's sitting in 2026 holding that evidence and saying, I don't want to know. I just don't think anyone's pushing for it. And hopefully someone does pick up that mantle.
I don't know. If you live in Cook County, reach out to someone. I have no problem. You know me, I'll make a phone call. It's probably, if I had actually had this case this week, I probably would have already called them. I love to call local law enforcement and ask them what's going on.
The last people that had it wasn't a police department. It was the district attorney's office.
Oh, even better.
They were the ones doing the case, not a police department.
Yeah. All right. Well, Cook County DA, why don't we get this tested and wrap this up and make this a solved case? Okay. Well, Ben, thanks. You told that very well. I get it. That was a terribly sad story. It's still, at the end of the day, though, it is an unsolved murder of a child that deserves to be solved.
It's an unsolved mystery.
It's an unsolved mystery. Okay. And speaking of unsolved mystery, we get Robert Stacks, and he says, quote, during the past 5 years, Unsolved Mystery has broadcasted several stories about people who seem to have an uncanny psychic abilities. One of them was Dorothy Allison, a New Jersey housewife who envisioned several clues, which helped police locate the body of a young boy drowned when he fell into a rain-swollen creek. Go back to season 1 to watch a recap of that and find out actually how that was in real life versus what was portrayed on Unsolved Mysteries. Later, we hear the haunting tale of Teresa, a murdered woman who reportedly spoke through a friend to name her own killer. When police asked a man, he confessed. And finally, there was the story of Carol, the British woman who would draw eerie portraits. Her clients say that Carol's drawing uncannily resembled their deceased loved ones, people whom Carol could have never met. We have actually covered all of those stories. And I'll be honest, out of actually all of those, the only one I genuinely believed had some truth to it was Teresa, which a made-for-TV movie was made about it, and it was pretty incredible. Ben, any thoughts? I did notice that they missed the psychic who got skipped from psychic school.
Yeah.
They didn't bring that one up.
I think she was involved with a ghost story.
Oh, yeah, maybe not a criminal one.
I think it was like the bar where she got brought in.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I can't remember.
It wasn't the ship. It wasn't the Mary.
No. I can't remember.
Which, speaking of, a friend of mine from another true crime podcast is staying on that boat tonight, the Queen Mary. Tonight. As we are recording, she is checked in.
I hope someone pulls her blankets off of her.
I hope she sees little ghost feet. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah.
You'll have to talk with her and ask her.
Yeah, I did. I sent her a message and was like, ooh, I want to know all the stories afterwards. Okay. So this is when we meet George Anderson. And he shares with us how he communicates with the people who have passed on. Quote, I wrote a lot of his quotes down. At times, it does seem, even for me, that I'm literally listening to them or listening to a conversation or a feeling I'm listening. I don't want people to get the impression it's all like I'm hearing clearly as I'm hearing you right now. It's a feeling that you're seeing, a feeling that you are hearing, a sensation more like. It's like getting an electrical charge throughout yourself. End quote.
I don't know what you just said. How can you feel but not hear? But say you hear, I'm sorry. How can you say you hear something but not hear it, but feel that you hear something?
No, he says he's hearing a feeling.
That's what I'm saying. Or he says he's feeling a hearing.
Mm-hmm. A feeling that you are hearing or a hearing that you are feeling.
I feel like I'm listening to politicians.
Mm-hmm. This is the most word salad. And this is the very first thing that he says to us.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And irritating.
So one of the first talking heads that we meet is a man named Joel Martin. He shares his experience. So Joel at the time is working for a radio talk host, the Joel Martin Show. I also found out he had a couple of like local cable news TV shows and stuff like that. He just seems like a radio personality. And it looked like he was out of New York. Yeah, he was on the WBAB 102.3 FM out of Babylon, New York, and Long Island. I think he had a pretty popular talk show. He did a live midnight programs on weekdays with topic ranging from local politician coverage to paranormal subjects, which is a crazy range.
I will say this. Back in the day,
even
not too long ago, maybe I've shared this before, but I can't remember. You're going to hear it again. Night local radio gets wild.
It does get wild.
And it's not even just local, but so I used to work a swing shift. I hate Delilah. I'm personally, I got nothing against the lady. That sounds weird. I don't care for that show. I don't care for that radio show.
Yeah.
I got nothing against the lady. Sorry. I didn't mean to say I hate you, but I just don't like
Delilah's
that show.
One of our big fans. She's a supporter on the Buy Me a Coffee.
I don't think she cares.
Just offended her.
I don't think she's that worried about what I said to her. But I used to get off of work at 2 a.m. and I would drive home, and there was I didn't have Bluetooth in I drove a 97 Grand Caravan or something like that. And I just listened into the radio on the way home. And there was that coast to coast and they would have aliens and all kinds of crazy stuff on there. It was great.
It was great. Yeah. There is a time just in a moment that radio talk shows at night were kind of unhinged, and I'm here for it. Because we also find out he also interviewed local comics and performers. It seemed just kind of like a modge podge of random subjects.
I bet his show was friggin' awesome.
And I did listen to it. Several people had posted some clips of it on YouTube. Even one guy found an old tape because he used to record it because he slept at night. So he'd record the show at night on a cassette tape so he could listen to it the next day. And he posted it. It was great. I listened to it for about 15, 20 minutes while I was like working on notes on this. It seemed like just a fun show. And it probably kept people up at night, which is what the whole point of that show was meant to do. So we're going to find out George is from the same area. He's from these little kind of towns around New York, because this is Babylon, New York, which is in Long Island. And so they live kind of within the same area. And so Joel asks George to come onto the show and do like a live session. And this was around 1980. He tells us that they had never met before and had only given him yes or no answers so that the spirits could talk, right? I guess that's how spirits like to do, like a Ouija board. We also learn at the time that George likes to scribble with his like right hand, I think, while he's doing the readings. I did watch a live thing of him. He's scribbling, but he never touches the paper. He just like, he looks like someone who has Parkinson's or something. His hand just kind of like goes like in this weird motion.
It is a very strange, you would think someone, it
doesn't touch the paper. He had like a white stick in his hand on the one that I was watching. It didn't even appear to have like a tip on it. So there's no scribbling happening. It's not like the lady that does things with pictures or anything. It's just a weird tick almost that it looks like that he has to do in order to stay connected with the spirits.
Wait, so when he's on the radio, people called in?
No, he did a live reading with Joel. So Joel's sharing his personal story of how they met, because we're going to find out later that George becomes like a regular on his show. And then maybe at that point, people called in. I couldn't find what he did, but he becomes a regular. But we'll get into that later. So Joel says that the very first thing George asked him was if the name Shirley means anything to him. And Joel's shocked by this question. Just shocked.
He's flabbergasted.
Because Joel says, yes, his late wife, who had just been killed in New York City while crossing the street a year previous to this like session, her name was Shirley. George then goes on to say,
that is wild.
Yeah, well, there's a handful of news articles about this. And she was married to a local radio show. And she was killed in New York City while crossing the street by a car. So it wasn't unknown. Just would like to point that out. Because he was.
George said he knew nothing about this guy.
Okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he knew nothing. I'm just telling you as someone much later in life,
from the bird's eye view,
that I was able to find out some information. Because Joel is a public figure. And this was something that he shared with people. Because that was part of his life, was
maybe even on his radio show.
Yeah, it's very possible.
And they lived in the same area? Interesting.
So George tells Joel that he feels pain in the head, maybe due to a car accident, and that Shirley was standing right behind Joel in the radio room. And the reading becomes all too real for Joel when George says that Shirley is waving her finger violently up and down, back and forth, very, very quickly. And this is just when Joel decides, like, at that moment, he's sharing the story with us, that this was real, because he said, quote, whenever she was annoyed with me, she would say, "You're a little boy. You're just a little boy." that was a private thing. And she and I knew. Nobody would have known that. So now I'm figuring, what the heck? I couldn't have told this to anybody. There's no way he could have known this or should have not known it. This was a very private thing, end quote. Just would like to point out, too, that all he said is that she was waving her finger up and down, and he filled in the rest. I don't know. We're building a pattern here, which is probably the pattern people were expecting me to take on this. And we can get into this later, but these are things, I'm telling you exactly what Unsolved Mysteries told us. I'm just telling you what I noted in these interviews. So, due to this, Joel asked George to undergo test with the acting chief of neurology at New York City Hospital. According to Joel, George's EEG was, quote, extremely unusual, end quote. While George conducted a session while having these things plugged into his scalp, he was with an off-screen subject. Half of his brain registered sleep while the other half showed normal waking patterns. I put this into ChatGPT because I wanted to understand what an EEG was and how unusual it was for half of our brain to be active and the other half to be not.
Can I guess?
Yes.
It's not uncommon.
Well, this is what Chat told me. It had some concerns because that statement alone doesn't actually mean anything. It's a very blanket statement. The reading of the brain and how it is triggered and what we are doing when it's triggered left and right side varies on a ton of different scales. And that to just say half of it was awake and half of it was asleep is not considered scientific language and wouldn't be recognized by anyone studying the world of brain activity or neuroscience because that doesn't point to anything. And that no, it's not necessarily unusual for only parts of our brain to be activated at different times, depending on what tasks we are doing, what kind of neurological disorders we may or may not have, what kind of prescription medication we are on, if we had been drinking the night before, if we're laying down, if we're standing up. There is a plethora of things that would have had to have been known for that statement to even make any sense. It means nothing. It's literally just humble jumble. Literally, even ChatGPT could not make sense of it.
It's gobbledygook.
It's gobbledygook.
All right.
And I would again like to point out that it was Joel that told us that George told him this. Because I will tell you guys, George's biggest claim to fame is that he is the most scientifically proven psychic. He has beat all these tests. He's done all of these things. He says he claims that he has been studied at Harvard and amongst many of other academic places of note. If that is the case, and I'm not saying that he did or did not do this. I want to make this very clear. I am not making an accusation. I did try to find peer review research studies done on this man because from my understanding, if you are a subject of a medical study, especially at an institute of learning, typically there is some sort of documentation or a test performed because the scientific theory has a very specific way that it's followed. And usually you have to have a subject and then a neutral and all of these things, like a controlled group and a non-controlled. And then that's all put together in a study, which is then put forth to a peer review. And it goes through a series of peer reviews and so on and so forth. I scoured the internet for any sort of documented research done on these tests that on his own website, he says that he was a part of or participated in. And I cannot find a single documentation of what the tests were, how they were performed, and what they concluded.
Well, because now it's not scientific. It's just fact.
Just saying. If someone
like
has
the air, it's as real as the air we breathe.
If someone listening to this attends Harvard and you can get me the peer review study on George Anderson, I'd love to read it because here's the thing, I believe in some sort of psychic abilities. And so I would love to know what these tests were. Okay, so this seems to be what Joel, the radio host, needed to share the famous words that we hear time and time again, that he had always considered himself a skeptic, but meeting George changed that. This also seems to be what took George from this kind of local guy that did psychic readings into a national spotlight. He started to spend a significant block of time on the radio call-in show and became something of a celebrity in his hometown. So, who is George Anderson? George was born in Lyndhurst, Long Island, New York in 1952. At the age of 6, he was stricken with a severe case of chickenpox and almost died. This is when he says immediately afterwards, he began to hear voices and see visions of people who had recently passed away. Eventually, George's parents, strict Roman Catholics, resigned themselves to their son's apparent ability. Thought that was interesting. So I did look this up and I found an article from the Catholic Times. And this is obviously outside of the scope of Unsolved Mysteries, but I wanted to know what the deal was like. What was the whole point of telling us that their parents had accepted their sons a gift? And this is the headline of the article is, "Hey Father, what does the Catholic Church teach about psychics, mediums, tarot cards, and Ouija boards?" As of December 2019, Pope Francis, while addressing a crowd during his regular Wednesday audience at the Vatican, departed himself to prepare for statements of the Acts of the Apostle and give a sermon to all who followed that true faith means abiding oneself to God and make himself not known to the occult practices through revelations and generosity of love. He went on to say, how is possible for you to believe in Jesus Christ if you go to a sorcerer, a fortune teller? Magic is not Christianity. These things that are done to predict the future or predict many things, change status in life, are not Christian, and the grace of Christ can be present, can bring you everything you need. Pray and trust in the Lord. So it seems like all forms of divination are to be 100% rejected by the Catholic Church. So seems like it's a pretty big deal if his parents were pretty active Catholics for them to accept what their son was doing, because according to them, this is all to be rejected 100%. So, okay. I couldn't find anything else about his life from the age of 16 to age 6 to early adulthood, except that his parents accepted his gifts. So, and just like that, he starts making a living by conducting psychic readings. This seems to have been
from the radio station.
No, earlier in life. He had gotten notoriety before in just like small circles.
The radio station one made him blow up. He went viral. After being on the radio as viral
station.
as you can go in 1980.
Okay, so now we've got some history about George Anderson. We are going to enter Barbara and John. 4 months before meeting George in 1982, they lost their 16-year-old son, David. David had gone out to a local party and had been killed by a hit-and-run driver as he walked home from his friend's house in order to meet his 12:30 curfew. The man, this was not on Unsolved Mysteries. They didn't give us any more information, but I did do a deep dive on this because I wanted to find out some more about this. The man who did hit this boy was later found guilty of leaving the scene of an accident and was booked and sentenced for 1 to 3 years and was eligible for parole within 6 months. He actually hit him and his friend. His friend was in critical condition for weeks and then spent months in the hospital. And they couldn't cite him for DUI because by the time they figured out who this guy was, They couldn't, alcohol was out of his system.
There's no way to prove it.
But there was an eyewitness that said this guy was swerving off of the road, plowed through these two boys, got out of his car, walked around to the back of the truck, saw that he had hit two boys, stood there for a little while, and then got back in his truck and left. And he, 1 to 3 years. Just terrible. So I wanted to point this out because I felt it was important to note the state of mind that these parents may or may not have been in during this time. Because 4 months before meeting the psychic, this is what had happened in their life. And the parents are interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries, and it's hard to watch. So John was troubled by Barbara, his wife. So John and Barbara are the parents, over his wife's deep depression over their son David's death. And at Barbara's request, John reluctantly agreed to book a session with George Anderson. We get in a reenactment of the very first session. It's all played by actors. No one in the session that is filmed on Unsolved Mysteries is played by themselves. So this is what the story portrays. George, you recently lost a son? Barbara, yes. George, in some sort of accident, passed suddenly, I keep seeing a vehicle of some kind. Barbara, yes. George, he's saying he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. 16, was he about 16? Barbara, yes, he was 16. George, he's telling me it's very confusing because he's restless. Was he very emotional? Barbara, yes. George, very emotional because he's talking a mile a minute. So the reading goes on like this, and Barbara lets us know that George knew many things that he should have not been able to know. But I did write down Barbara's end thoughts. And this is her real thoughts sharing at the end of kind of her segment with Unsolved Mystery. Quote, I felt this enormous relief when we made contact with David through George. It was total relief because it felt like you arrived. You were in the other world. You were still alive, and I will see you again. And there's a reason for all of this, and I don't know what that reason is, but I will see you again. End quote. And that's how they kind of wrap up that segment on that family. Ben, you've been really quiet. Do you have any thoughts?
No. I feel bad for these parents.
Yeah.
That is a horrible thing to lose your child.
And I will say, this was all over the news and in tons of news articles because these two kids were local high school kids, very well known, very big in the soccer team, had traveled, were going big places. And so it was very publicized. I found multiple news articles about it. Okay. So.
I'll save a lot of it till the end of this.
Okay. So this story of David would actually end up having another skeptic changing event, is what I could phrase it as. There is a man named John Elliott who is also interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries. John's son is also named David Elliott. And he had sadly passed away 6 years after the first David from the hit and run accident had passed away. And he had passed away from a snow skiing accident at the age of 17. John Elliott, while stricken with grief, bought a book after his son's death about George Anderson called, quote, We Don't Die, end quote. The book dealt with the case of the first David. So George Anderson shares this. It's not written by George Anderson. It's written by somebody else sharing the story of George Anderson discovering this family. I don't want to say profiting off, but sharing the story of the first David. And here's the description of the book. Okay, so I wrote down the description of the book from Amazon. Quote, For over 12 years, Joel Martin documented evidence of Anderson's powers, the ability to reach the other side, and repeatedly astonish believers and skeptics. This is the book of those universal visions, the inspiring message of hope, truth, and peace, and a glimpse into eternity to answer the unfathomable question about life and death. End quote. So
that was the guy from the radio. He wrote. Did he write the book, or did he just write the description of the book, or did George write this book?
This book, I believe, was written by the radio guy.
Oh, okay.
Written by the radio guy about George. George Anderson has also written tons of books about life after death too. Okay. But this is the book that ends up the dad buying after his son passed away. Okay. So you see where we're going with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So one night after reading the book, he had a dream that he had a session with George. And in it, George said that he saw his son David standing next to the other David. And that's about it. Like, then he wakes up from his dream. So John, after having this dream, and he wakes up and he's interviewed on Unsolved Mystery, he tells us, like, this dream felt super real. But he decided that he needed to book an appointment with George as soon as possible. And he says, my background is in science and engineering. Circumstantial evidence doesn't prove anything to myself. I need hard facts. And I want a number of things out of any vision or any trip to George to convince myself that he was doing something like he claimed in his books. So around a month later, John decides to go to one of these sessions, or books one. And according to Unsolved Mysteries, at least the reenactment, they're like in a group setting. They're not doing a one-on-one. So it's like a...
Well, he says he went to like a seminar.
A seminar or something.
Because he goes with his other son?
He takes his two sons. He sits in the back of the room while his two friends sat in the front of the room. Okay. John tells us that George calls him out of all the people there in the crowd and points to him and says, you, the man in the back of the room, you lost a son, right? But then, as he's asking this question, a burst of lightning strikes outside. And George then tells the room, I lost the signal. The reading at some point was able to continue. Apparently, I don't know if the lightning storm had moved on or whatnot, because we do find out that George says he can't always perform when there's a lightning storm because it interferes with his signals.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize electricity, messes up other electricity signals.
Yeah. So George is able to point out that the other two boys sitting up front are brothers, and they're also sons of John. He also says that the David from his book, who I think becomes more of his like popular person, is also in the room with him, which is kind of weird because he has another boy close to the same age. He's getting the number 17. And he also looks like this other teenage boy liked sports, obviously died suddenly. And these things all help John accept that this is the real deal. He said it gave him a new outlook on life, and that an understanding that not only in his son, but also past family members are with us and around us at all times, even after they move on. So Robert Stack pops back on and he says, to satisfy our own curiosity about George Anderson's apparent ability to communicate with the dead, Unsolved Mysteries asked a bereaved family from Queens, the Keith Silvermans, to meet with George. As far as we were able to ascertain, George Anderson and the Silvermans had never met, nor did he know anything about them or their son, who had recently passed. 33-year-old Barry Silverman died of lung cancer in February of 1992. His parents, Kenneth and Harriet, and his sister Joy agreed to partake in a session with George Anderson, and it was recorded for Unsolved Mysteries.
We get the real recording, not a reenactment.
Nope, we get the real deal. They set up multiple cameras.
And they do it.
And it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Well, it feels a little exploitive because
from this family.
His family, exactly.
They did. They lost a son.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
Yeah. So up front, it appears that George is able to identify two male presence in the room, one being an older male and one is more of a middle-aged man, which is determined to be Harriet's father and their son, Barry. He is also able to give the name Barry. I will say we don't get the full session. We get clips of it. We do not get it in full. But we do see that he's able to give the name Barry. He also tells them that Barry feels like his chest hurts. It's hard to breathe, especially right in the middle of his chest.
My chest.
Yeah. And then he looks at Kenneth, specifically, who's the father, and says, "You did not let me down." And the dad loses it. He starts sobbing. "I did let my son down." Da, 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 da. And everyone is crying at this point. The mom, the sister, the dad, they're sobbing. And George says this to them. He says, and he's speaking, this is, quote, this is him speaking as what he is saying their son Barry is saying to them. So he is saying, he says, when you leave here with peace. He says, you didn't fail me. And he says, now you stop feeling guilty. And he says, you let that go and put your heart at rest. He says, because he's all right. He is at peace. Until we meet again, go on with our lives. Try to be as happy as you can. Until we meet again, know that you will be with me again. One thing about him, he's honest. You hear it from him. You'll know it's for real. And with that, he withdraws with the others. Pray for us until we meet again. And there you go. Okay, you can relax. Away they went. End quote.
Just like that.
And that's how the session ends. And everyone takes a deep breath and then they're interviewed right afterwards. And I wrote down a few of the thoughts. Quote, I feel so much better. Quote, I'm just so relieved. Quote, I'm happy to hear that he is not suffering anymore. Kind of the same things. They all kind of repeat the same sort of sentiments.
Yippers.
Mm-hmm. So George shares, so he's interviewed also on Unsolved Mysteries, and he shares that even he's a skeptic and doesn't understand
sure he is.
Or sometimes even believe why this is happening or if it's really happening. But that's his job. And his job is not to question it and to just be the instrument that brings these people joy and relief. And I'll end it with you, my dear listeners, how Robert Stack ended it with us. Quote, after seeing George Anderson in action, one might speculate, to paraphrase Shakespeare, that there's, gosh, I butchered that. Shakespeare always makes me nervous. Okay. Quote, to paraphrase Shakespeare, that there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt in our philosophies. End quote. Should I do that whole thing again since I just butchered it?
It was great. No. It was great.
And that's the ending line of, and here's the thing, I actually really appreciate what Robert Sachs had to say because I agree that there are more things in heaven and earth than we could possibly even fathom and think about through science and philosophy.
Do you think Robert Sachs was a skeptic?
Oh, he actually is chronically, was, until he finished the show, a big skeptic about a lot of things.
It's probably because he just saw so much. And he's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
That's George Anderson, the psychic medium.
That's kind of where
who's still alive and doing sessions to this day.
Do you want your update?
I do.
Okay. Update. Today, George Anderson is a ripe 73 years old and is still very much working in the world of readings, media, and selling books. His net worth is estimated to fall within the range of $30 to $45 million, with the primary wealth being driven from decades of high-end private readings, charging premium standard rates starting at $1,000 and going into the upwards of $1,300 per session. Over a career spanning several decades, this has generated a substantial amount of wealth. According to his own website, in his career, George has done more than 35,000 sessions for the bereaved and is the most scientifically tested medium of the century. I would like to point out alone, 35,000 times 1,000 is what? We did the math the other day.
It was 35 million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he wasn't charging $1,000 a session in the 80s.
But this is just very simple math I'm trying to point out. So, and as of today, you can absolutely still schedule a session. In fact, his personal phone number is listed on his website, as well as his assistant's or his staff's phone number. You can book a session online or you can book a session through email. From my understanding, a session gets you about an hour of his time via a phone call. And it is for up to 2 people. On the other side of this coin, I did find a small amount of online reviews of people who did actually book sessions with this man and did not have good experiences through personal readings and actually walked away completely unbelieving in him, even after years and or decades, believing that George Anderson truly had a gift.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I found a website that you would really like.
What's that?
It is called Bad Psychics. I'm going to read you their tagline. Welcome to Bad Psychics, your trusted resource for uncovering the truth behind fake psychics and debunking their supernatural claims. We are committed to promoting skepticism, critical thinking, providing you with a clear and factual information about paranormal and other practices. At Bad Psychic, we celebrate the power of science and rational inquiry. Our mission is to expose fraudulent psychics and unverified supernatural phenomenon, empowering you with knowledge. And they have February 8th, 2013, a giant write-up on George Anderson. I will not read the whole thing for you, but they've tagged several and posted several of his negative reviews. And it's very sad because there's people in here who have lost husbands, wives, children, and all of that, who had believed in him for many years and then sought his readings after the passing of those people and walked away feeling completely scammed. Yeah. In some of the most darkest moments of their life.
Yeah. I mean, my view on psychics has been very clear. Mm-hmm. And we've had psychics on here. This is a different psychic we've never had on here.
Yeah. Has anyone ever seen the TV show The Mentalist? If you haven't, I would suggest you go watch it.
Go watch episode 1. Mm-hmm. Just go watch episode 1, season 1, episode 1. And it'll tell you everything you need to know about certain psychics. Mm-hmm. I'll say the only psychic I really was irritated with was that one lady who said she was solving murders when she wasn't. That
was the lady who inserted herself into hundreds of police cases. Yeah. And that's actually the one I was suggesting from season 1, who claims that she was the one that helped solve the case of the boy. She never did. Yeah. No, not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we've had pretty much all the psychics on here. There were some that were trying to help the police, but most of them have come in the ghost stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're do I believe them? No, but they're harmless. Mm-hmm. They go to a haunted museums and hotel or whatever, and they tell you a story of what they see and what that. Great.
The psychics on the ghost ship were some of my favorites.
Yeah. But psychics that prey off of vulnerable people for money.
Bereavement, grief.
That's another level.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Here's the thing.
I'll say this about John Anderson. If he truly has a gift, and I'm not going to get into whether I think he does or not, what is disgusting about it is the price that he charges.
Obviously, you guys can tell. We're trying not to say anything because we don't want to completely slander someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can say what I believe. I don't believe George Anderson.
Yeah, you are allowed.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not making a factual statement.
No, when you're not accusing him of any sort of
on
criminal.
my own personal thing, I don't believe him.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch his thing, to me, it seems pretty clear what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
First off, Joe Schmo off the street is not the one coming in.
Yeah.
The only people coming in are people that have had something terrible happen in their life.
Well, he's very clear on his website. He markets towards recently deceased and people that are in bereavement periods. Like he uses those key words. And then his material that he writes and sells is giving this hopes and promises of life after death and all of this. And that he has the keys and the answers to that, which I imagine people, when they are in the thrones of grief, seek out this information and stumble upon him. He has put himself in the direct line of a network of people. He's funneling grief towards him.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So he already knows the person sitting in front of him has had something terrible happen to them, most likely a death. Take the people that they did the live session for Unsolved Mysteries. They come in and they sit in, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know. He knows they lost someone. And then he's like, by their age, their son wasn't 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Their son must have been middle-aged of some sort, right? It's just, to me, it's process of elimination. And then we saw it twice in this. He talks about, I feel this pain in my chest or my head. Okay, let me explain something to you. He touches
those areas before he says anything, and he talks slowly enough that he's looking for a reaction.
He's doing a cold reading. Mm-hmm. He touches things and...
He's very smart and intuitive. He's very aware of people's body language.
Body language is their way they tense up, is my guess.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. When someone, and I think it's a funny statement when you say you lost a son. So he knows they lost a son, a teenage son. Oh, he was taken suddenly. Okay. No 16-year-old dies by not suddenly, right? What I'm saying is
90% of the time, if you have a child that passes, it's going to be...
No one's expecting a 16-year-old to pass.
No.
That's what I'm saying. 95, we all kind of knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Right? 16, no one is guessing a 16-year-old or is expecting a 16-year-old to pass. So yes, every 16-year-old death is sudden. Mm-hmm. It's a very blanket statement.
Or that it was tragic.
Mm-hmm. And he goes, what are the things that kill people? Chest and head. Mm-hmm. Chest and head.
Yeah.
And you notice he never says anything specific.
Nope.
Because 1, you had a car accident. 2, you had lung cancer. You could say, I'm feeling something in my chest, an accident of some sort. Well, chest, it could be cancer in the chest, or it could be a car accident. If you die in a car accident, it's most likely from blunt force trauma to the head or chest. Mm-hmm.
No, I get it. I was not honestly expecting to take this turn, but I didn't know much about this man. Sylvia Brown, It's hard what I can say and what I can't say. Sylvia Brown just spouted rhetoric. I've watched now since I talked about her. I've had people send me several of every time she has a TikTok or a reel like that features her. She just said the most wild things to people, sometimes even before they even finished their sentence. You were a soldier. You were this. Da 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 da. You're a spirit. Da, 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 just throws things off. And she like rapid fires. She doesn't think about it. I legitimately, while I think that she was a fraud, I think she did it for more of the showmanship and the attention. She was famous because of it, right? I don't think she quote unquote preyed on people in their hard times of their life. She liked being on television and she was an actress and she was very good at it. And people believed her and she got a lot of attention for it. What I struggle with this type of psychic, not naming any names, is it feels very exploitive of people in the worst parts of their lives, sometimes in the darkest, hardest times. And
this is because it is.
Everyone will question who we are, where we are going, where we were before this, what is the purpose of life, when they are in the throngs of pain and grief.
Well, people want answers.
You do.
And
that's human nature.
I get it.
And there's a million ways to find answers. And unfortunately, David Anderson is not alone in saying, I have the answers for you. You can find people amongst cults, religions, psychics, magicians, card readings, all of that are willing for money to give you the answers.
You know who doesn't charge money for answers?
God. Yeah. Do you know who doesn't charge money for answers? Your own intuition and getting to know yourself and healing yourself from the inside out. Do you know who else doesn't charge you for answers? Your loved ones, your family, your friends, your community, your support group.
That's the thing. It breaks my heart because I can't imagine as a parent. And so I understand that people want answers or they just want comfort. And I get it.
But if someone's charging you $1,000 for comfort, people, that should be a red flag. And that's my point that I would say to Dave Anderson if he listened to this. And he's probably a nerd. George Anderson. There is a high possibility he could listen to this. If you genuinely had a gift from God, I don't want to, shame on you. Shame on you for profiting off of that at $1,000 a pop. You're a terrible human being for doing that. You are a bad person. Good luck in the next life, because I don't think that gift is given to everybody.
I'm sure people have felt comfort by going to them. I'm just saying on my personal thing, I don't believe in psychics. And when I watched him, it just appeared as a skill that he had acquired and was using it in this way. Mm-hmm. That's what it looked like to me. Yeah. He was cold reading people. He was saying broad statements to try to get reactions. And once he got those reactions, that gave him the snowball effect to continue with that. And as you continue, you can get more specific because you've now.
Well, and I've noticed the more people start to trust him, they start saying more and more things. So they give him more information as the snowball grows.
And he's able to take that information and roll it into that. That's how I think it looks to me.
My PSA to people is that there just are ways to find comfort and solace in your darkest moments that don't drain your bank account. And maybe money to you is not a big deal. And so that's fine. If that's the case, go for it by all means. But what I am here to tell you is that if you've had someone pass on that you loved and affected your life, they're never fully gone. They're here. They're with you. They support you. They love, they comfort you. You will see them again. And that's just truth. That's just how it is. And I can tell you that for free. And I'm sure your friends and family can, and your local loved ones can, and your local religious leaders can. Whatever you find comfort in, your local yoga class. I don't care what it is. Find a connection. And it doesn't have to cost you $1,000. Now that we went off on that tangent, that is our recap of season 5, episode 10 of Unsolved Mysteries. Okay, Ben, let's lighten it up a little bit and have a little bit of fun, shall we? I've got a question for you. Pretty simple. What is one item that you cannot live without?
One item.
Just pick, one item that you've now day to day has become such an integral part that, like, if you forgot it while packing on vacation or something, your trip is ruined.
That's a good question. I don't know. I have to think about it. You go.
I have noticed, I think let's even just exclude the standard. Like, my cell phone is my GPS, and quite frankly, because of me as a person, also my ID and my credit card and my debit card. So if I didn't have my phone, it'd be a problem. But let's exclude like those kind of standard things. In adulthood, I have discovered the joys of sleeping with an eye mask on. And white noise. And if I forget a sound machine or my eye mask while I'm on vacation, or if I leave the house, or if I don't have those two things, I cannot live without either of those now. I just can't. Zombie apocalypse, the eye mask and the sound machine are coming with me.
That is a good one.
I just can't. You know me, every night. If I can't find my eye mask, I have 2 or 3 backups to them.
I know. It's a big deal.
And I wasn't expecting it. And
it
wasn't even something I started using till after we had kids, because I needed to leave like a light on or something, because life changes when you have children. And I discovered the joys of the eye mask much later in life, and I cannot believe that I survived my first 30-something years without it. How do you sleep without an eye mask on?
I mean, I do it every night.
I know. That's why it's my thing.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one because that is truly you.
Yeah. Okay. What about you? Anything? Did that?
I'll be honest. There's nothing I'm absolutely, completely passionate, hooked on. I guess if I went to a food thing, I have to have a white monster every day. Every day.
I don't know if I admit that on the podcast, because there is something about
I don't care what people think, and I don't care the vitriol that might come my way. And people do not send me the information. Well, one, you can't send me because I don't have any information. I don't care that it's going to kill me.
The stereotype of the kind of man that has a white monster in his hand is not you, but it is like
I don't care.
Douchiest guys. But yeah, no, you.
And maybe I am the douchiest guy. That's fine.
Douchiest guy.
I don't care, but I drink one of those. Not sometimes I have 2. I'll admit that. Most days it's just one.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to drink that every day. If I miss a day, the next day's a bad day because I know I'm addicted, because then I get the headache.
Yeah, but I think that's.
But caffeine. I don't care.
Yeah.
So
you can't go without caffeine. You can't live without caffeine.
No, caffeine is.
What about something simple like socks? Like, what if all of a sudden socks just completely went away? That would drive you crazy. You hate being barefoot. You can't.
I can be barefoot in my house.
Yeah.
But when I leave the house.
Yeah. So imagine never having access to socks ever again.
Yeah, that would suck. That would be terrible.
It wouldn't bother me.
I know it wouldn't bother you.
Ben thinks I'm the weirdest human being because he does not comprehend that I rarely wear socks with my shoes. I just don't. I do not. I only wear socks at home because I like wearing socks at home for comfort and just walking around. And I like wearing socks to bed. I don't like wearing socks with shoes. I don't like the way it feels. And oddly enough, if I wear socks with shoes, like on a hike or at Disneyland where you're going to be walking around, everyone's like, you need socks and you need really nice socks and you need this. Guess what happens? Every single time
You get blisters.
I get a blister.
I know.
I do better at Disneyland with Old Navy flip-flops than I do with $200 Nikes and fancy socks on. I get a blister.
I know. I've dealt with it with you.
I know. And every time I was like, because Ben will make a comment like, you probably shouldn't wear sandals. And so I'll put on shoes.
Used to.
You used to. No, not anymore. Because it blows your mind.
I encourage you to wear whatever you want so you don't have blisters. So we don't have to deal with blisters the rest of this trip.
Multiple day long hike. And I bought super fancy like walking boots and like the fancy hiking socks that are like, I don't know what they're made out of, wool. So they're like wick resistant and all of that. You guys, I had so many blisters that my toenails fell off.
Yeah, I know.
And but then we've gone on hikes and I wear white Keds. Keds are my favorite thing to hike in with no socks on.
No blisters.
And 0 blisters. And I like dance around and can crawl all over stuff and have no problems and no blisters. But yeah, that's the only thing I thought of for you. I was like, Ben wouldn't do well without socks.
No, I wouldn't.
Because that would drive you crazy to feel that on your feet all the time.
Yeah, one time I went to work and I wear hiking boots.
Mm-hmm.
I wear boots at work and they're 8-inch high boots. And I went to the gym before I went to work and I get done. I'm getting dressed in my uniform. I forgot my tall socks. I had to wear ankle socks with my boots all day.
And how did that go for you?
It was a bad day. It was a bad day.
Yeah.
I was really upset about it that day.
And
I technically still had socks.
Ben also can't live without sunscreen for the back of his neck because if you have to go outside anywhere and you cannot cover the back of your neck, you were at a 10 the whole time.
I hate getting my neck sunburned.
You guys, Ben won't put lotion on nothing. He hates the feeling of it.
I hate sunscreen. Mm-hmm. I absolutely despise it.
But if we go anywhere and he's going to be out and his neck is exposed, he is nervous Nelly.
I'm outside.
He will spend $25 on the smallest bottle of sunscreen at Disneyland because we forgot to pack it because he won't be able to calm down until he puts it on the thing. Because you hate it.
I hate my neck being burnt.
Mm-hmm.
Neck and shoulders. The top of my shoulders. Hate it.
Where were you where that just happened? We weren't expecting it to be sunny and you ended up getting
We were at your sister's house.
Oh.
And we were swimming.
Yeah, and it was like not sunny outside.
Pissed.
You got fried.
I was pissed.
All right, guys. Well, on that note, we hope you guys have an amazing week and that things are growing. Things are growing in your garden and things are going great in your life. And please join Ben and I again next week when we deep dive and recap another episode of
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.